Well, we're getting dangerously close, if not already moving beyond the Battle of Fort Sumter. I bring you now to Wikipedia, a very simple, short explanation of the Battle of Fort Sumter. This is just talking about, the Civil War. They say on March 4th, 1861, Abraham Lincoln was sworn in as president. In his inaugural address, he argued the Constitution was that the Constitution was a more perfect union than the earlier Articles of Confederation. Yada, yada. He talked about all this great stuff. The South sent delegations to Washington and offered to pay for federal properties and entered into a peace treaty with the U.S. This is after this, I believe 7 states seceded. I don't want to read through the whole thing, though. But 7 states, whatever. Let's talk about Fort Sumter specifically. I'm not here to do a Civil War history lesson, just this particular point.
Right.
They say Fort Sumter is located in the middle of the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. Its garrison had recently moved there to avoid incidents with local militias in the streets of the city. Lincoln told its commander, Major Anderson, to hold on until fired upon. Confederate President Jefferson Davis ordered the surrender of the fort. Anderson gave a conditional reply that the Confederate government rejected, and Davis ordered General P.G.T. Beauregard to attack the fort before a relief expedition could arrive. He bombarded Fort Sumter on April 12th through 13th, forcing its capitulation. The attack on Fort Sumter rallied the North to the defense of American nationalism. Interesting. Historian Alan Nevins underscored the significance of the event. The thunderclap of Sumter produced a startling crystallization of Northern sentiment. Anger swept the land. From every side came news of mass meetings, speeches, resolutions, tenders of business support, the muster of companies and regiments, the determined action of governors and legislature. Union leaders incorrectly assumed that only a minority of Southerners were in favor of secession and that there were large numbers of Southern Unionists that could be counted on. Had Northerners realized that most Southerners favored secession, they might have hesitated at attempting the enormous task of conquering a united South. Lincoln called on all the states to send forces to recapture the fort and other federal properties. The scale of the rebellion appeared to be small, so he called for only 75,000 volunteers for 90 days. The governor of Massachusetts had state regiments on trains headed south the next day. In western Missouri, local secessionists seized Liberty Arsenal. On May 3rd, 1861, Lincoln called for an additional 42,000 volunteers for a period of 3 years. 4 states in the middle of the Upper South had repeatedly rejected Confederate overtures, but now Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, and North Carolina refused to send forces against their neighbors, declared their secession, and joined the Confederacy. To reward Virginia, the Confederate capital was moved to Richmond. A lot of people don't know this, that the original secession wasn't the entirety of the Confederacy. It was only after Lincoln was like, I'm taking Fort Sumter against their will, that everyone else was like, dude, this is nuts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there it is right there. Wikipedia's on. Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, North Carolina were like, we're not going to do this. We're out. We're joining them because this is getting nuts. I mean, from a practical standpoint, their argument was based on, you can't come into our state when we've seceded from the Union and then take this fort.
Sounds familiar.
Well, the thing about so right now, Trump is saying the Union, whatever we end up calling it, has a right to, enforce the laws of the United States of America. We are a united country. For these individual states to be saying no, I don't know what it's going to look like. It's not going to look like the North versus the South. But what happens when Illinois, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Oregon, Washington, California form a coalition? What happens when they form the National Popular Vote Coalition? A bunch of states that are all left-leaning that demand the vote goes to the popular vote winner. What happens if come November, Trump wins a narrow electoral college victory somehow, Joe Biden wins the popular vote, and the coalition of states in the popular vote side reject federal authority outright and say, bye-bye. And then Trump says, we coming in. We're going to shut you down.
I don't know. It sounds viable, though. It sounds like that could happen.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what I will point out, there's a few interesting things. In this article, when they mention Alan Nevins, the historian, he talks about anger sweeping the land. From every side came news of mass meetings, speeches, resolutions, tenders of business support, the muster of companies and regiments, the determined action of governors and legislatures. Except all that is happening for the left, not the right. Yeah. The right is doing nothing. They're listen, right now, it's the federal government fighting civilians and state governments.
No, I keep saying this. It's like the people on the right are they've got lives. They're working on their properties. They're
at a certain
doing jobs.
Sure, but at a certain point, man.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't mean
sure.
anything.
Yeah, okay, but
Yeah.
we can't discount that whole the majority of Americans that aren't standing out in Portland. They had 2,000 people. Okay, 2,000 people that are out there.
And you have someone made a meme photo of like the culture war belligerents, and it was all of the brands and government agencies of the left.
Mm-hmm.
The right had like nothing. How many companies have overtly come out and said no to intersectionalism?
Red Bull, yeah.
There you go.
But it's the start. I mean, Goya. I mean, we are.
That's true.
We're
Yeah.
seeing. There's a shift that's happening right now where people are like, you know what, we have had enough. We are over this. Like we are realizing. Maybe they're watching you. Maybe they're hearing you say the enough is enough. You know. But I mean, we're seeing it. I'm certainly seeing it. You know, more and more people are starting to stand up and be like, this is ridiculous. Defend the police. You know, we gotta
Look, man.
We gotta stand up.
I tweeted that somebody I met at a Black Lives Matter protest in 2014 is now 100% Trump train.
Yep.
Posting memes, posting all this Trump Jr. stuff. And when I tweeted about it, the left just refuses to accept it.
Right, of course.
That could be their downfall. And that's the other point I want to bring up right here. They say that had Northerners realized that most Southerners had favored secession, they might have hesitated at attempting the enormous task of conquering the United South. It could be that these far leftists, had they known just how large the silent majority was, they would have been reticent to actually try and stage this kind of insurrection against a united anti-SJW front.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I mean, the North won in that regard, you know? The Democrats lost last time. Maybe they'll lose again. You know, those perennial losers. The Republicans will keep winning all the civil conflict.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just Republicans. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and he was like talking about the Democrats, and he was saying we as in like him and the Democrats, and I'm like, what, do you think that I'm a Republican now just because I'm voting Trump? Like, it's like, I don't agree with all the things that they're talking about. I don't agree with all the things the Democrats are talking about. There is such thing as being in the middle and looking at both sides critically, thinking about it, talking about what each side is doing. And if I'm going to choose between Biden and Trump, I'm absolutely going to vote Trump. Period.
Take a look at this article.
That's it.
There you go.
Democrats are replacing Republicans as the preferred party of the very wealthy.
So when your friend, this is from June 3rd, 2016.
Yeah.
I wonder why Trump won. So when your friend says we, referring to the Democrats, what does he think they're doing for him?
I asked him that. We had a long conversation. I kept saying, like, what is it about my politics that you don't agree with? Because I'm pretty sure we agree with a lot of things, you know, and it's funny. We had a long, hour-long conversation, and every single thing I was talking about, he was like, yeah. And every single thing he was talking about, I was like, yeah. And it turns out we actually agreed on most things. And
So is the
it turns
difference-
out he didn't know a lot of the things that Trump was doing.
Exactly.
And
So is it going to turn out
that's
that
what
he's
it
not
is.
paying attention?
Well, most people aren't. I can only really speak for myself. I had no idea. But now I have very much a clue of what's going on.
It's crazier than ever, man.
I agree.
It is.
I agree.
As time goes on and the sheer desperation of the Democratic Party, you know, becomes more and more visible, put it that way.
Absolutely.
And now with like, there's just, they demanded mail-in voting, and now mail-in voting is broken.
Yep.
Why?
Because they need to pull all the stops to get him out of office.
They would rather destroy this country than...
Yeah, absolutely. They can't have him continue doing what he's doing because he wants to make America strong and bring up manufacturing back and make it so that people can't go overseas to just make crazy profit and have all the people buying products and that money is leaving the country instead of staying in the country.
Have they been right about anything?
No, not that I know of.
Russiagate?
Someone
Wrong.
tell me something that they've been right on. I'll happily
No,
check it out.
To be fair, you know, and I think in the sense we're talking, there's going to be small things they probably got right.
Sure, yeah. But
In terms of all these,
I can't name anything offhand.
in terms of all these big major stories, we can say Russiagate was a huge waste of everybody's time.
Yeah.
Just dramatically wrong for 3+ years.
Well, it fueled the whole orange man bad thing that
But
they've been using as a fuel to like.
But look at these.
They got
right.
me, dude. I'll be honest. Like I didn't like him, but then I like looked in it and I'm like had to question myself. Like, why don't I like him? I'm watching his speeches. I'm hearing what he's saying. Now I'm looking at his policies based on what he's telling me. Then I'm looking at the media and hearing what they're saying based on what he's saying, and none of it makes any sense. The one thing that does make sense to me are the policies he's putting forward, and I'm like, I can get behind all that.
You know what, man? If you try to force me to do something, I'll do the opposite.
I don't like being forced to do anything.
Yeah,
I agree with you completely.
I don't know if obstinate is the right word, but it's kind of like if somebody came up to me and said, "I demand you do this or else," I'd be like, "I'm going to do the exact opposite."
Yep.
Like I would rather go down in flames jamming you up than living on my knees helping you do anything.
I'm curious, how would you feel if Joe Biden said to you,
"Look fat"?
If you don't know if you're voting for me, you aren't Korean. How would that make you feel? Just curious.
Not good. I get it. Yeah. No, I'd cuss him out.
Me too.
Tell him to go shove it.
And you know what? Props to that guy that was Charlemagne was doing that show with him. Props for him keeping his cool, because man, that would piss me off.
Dude,
sure.
and his follow-up to that was insanely racist. He said that Charlemagne was being a wise guy, and I was like, excuse me? The dude asked you a legitimate question.
Right,
man.
exactly.
He said, what are you going to do for my community? Then when you said that stupid line about you ain't black, Charlemagne the God was like, no, I'm asking you a real question, man. You want the votes. Then he has the nerve to go on another show and goes like, well, he was being a wise guy, so.
It's terrible.
I don't care about this guy. This guy is a lunatic he can't think or talk straight, and they don't care, and they know it.
Yep.
They're just jamming and shaking and damaging everything.
Yeah, they clearly don't care about those communities at all.
This is why I asked, have they been right about anything? Russiagate cost us years, and Trump still managed to make a good economy.
That's
cost
true.
us years. Waste of money, just fake news nonstop for years, making everyone go nuts. Ukraine Gate was fake. The whistleblower thing was fake. It turns out now, the testimony of the Russiagate stuff's being released. These guys were lying the entire time.
Yep.
Then they do impeachment, wasting everybody's time. The Democrats very early on were completely wrong about COVID.
Yep.
Trump was correct early on, and then they both deserve some credit for flubs. Okay, Donald Trump wasn't fast enough on certain issues. That's fine. Okay, I think we can say nobody wins that one, but to act like they did a good job is insane.
And to act like that Trump didn't want the best for the American people. His own grandfather died to the last pandemic in this country. Go ahead.
Justice Smollett, wrong, fake.
Yep.
Covington story, wrong, fake. Then they demanded mail-in voting. And when Trump said it's going to be bad, and the Republicans were like, we're not ready for this, they went, Trump is so dumb. He voted by mail. Mail-in voting's been around forever. And you actually listen to these people, and they'll say something very simple to you. Yes, you are correct. Mail-in voting has been around forever, but mass mail-in voting is something we don't do.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are not prepared for. And now we're getting from the New York Times story after story, 65,000 plus votes are not counted because of postal service errors.
Yep.
California just didn't count 100,000.
Right.
And in many places, it's young voters and marginalized communities that don't know how to vote who are getting disqualified because there's no one there to help them. And that's what the Democrats wanted. So they have been making a mess of everything nonstop.
Yep. Blaming it on Trump still.
You know what, man? Okay. I won't attribute malice that which can be explained by incompetence. That means we've got the three stooges for the Democrats running around going.
I mean, there's only so long that saying goes before you go, okay, it's malice now. Okay, you know what? That's enough incompetence. It's malice. There has to be a line that you're like, you know what? We've finally crossed it. Clearly something's going on that shouldn't be going on.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify. And we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.